risky and try to do this meeting. One moment there, you'll get that little got it button on your screen, and you're all set. Have a good meeting.
Thanks. All right. Welcome. This is the Scituate Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee meeting. It is Tuesday, April 18th, 2023 at 6:34 p.m. So recently, on March 29th, 2023, Governor Healy signed into law a supplemental budget bill, which among other things extends the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2025. So that's great for us. Because specifically that further extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public. Public body physically present at a meeting location and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. This meeting will be recorded by Scituate Community Television and can be viewed live on Scituate Community Television Facebook Live. The recorded meeting will be available the following day on Comcast Channel 9 and YouTube Scituate Community Television. All right, I'm going to read our commitment statement and then we will open the meeting officially. This is a safe, secure space for all people, especially people of color, and for all underrepresented people and communities. This is a space where people can bring up challenges and questions without fear. We will assume best intentions and we will treat one another with politeness and respect at all times. This committee is dedicated to these standards. We want our members and others joining our meetings to feel welcomed and respected. Thank you. So I would like to call the meeting to order. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thanks, Kate. All right, I will call the roll. Ms. Swope.
Here.
Ms. Risha.
Yes.
Ms. Dre.
Yes.
And Ms. Gilberti.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay, so first order of business. I would like to welcome Christina Gilberti to the committee, and I won't put you on the spot for too long, but if you could just introduce yourself and describe your role with the town, that would be awesome.
Hi, everybody. My name's Christina Gilberti. I've been with the town of Scituate since 2017. I've been working at the library. I started out as a library technician. I was working full-time. And in 2020, I was promoted to circulation supervisor. So I supervise the staff that are in that department and the department itself. So pretty much just the main desk area. And I think about 8 staff members in that department. So thanks for having me. I'm excited to be a part of your committee. Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right, and we're not rogue anymore because thank you, Kate, for jumping in. We weren't sure if we had our quorum or not, but here you are. And hi, Jamil.
My children almost didn't allow for it, but cross your fingers.
No, it's all good. Okay, so Celia again, our temporary secretary, did a great job with the minutes. They've been distributed. I don't personally have any comments. Does anyone have any commentary on the minutes from March 22nd? All right, I will move to accept the minutes from March 22nd. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Angela. All right, I will call the roll. Ms. Gilberti.
Yes.
Ms. Dre.
Yes.
Ms. Risha.
Yes.
Ms. Swope.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay, great. All right, moving right along, liaison reports. I guess I'll turn to you first, Maura, if you want to give an update. I know you just got done with town meetings. I know we've got an election coming up. Whatever else you want to cover.
Sure. So I'll just be quick. So town meeting was great. Well, it was unfortunate nobody was really there. But it was a success as to everything that we wanted to put forth to move the town forward past. We passed a almost $95 million operational budget. And then when you bring in the enterprise accounts, it's up to almost 110 million. So certainly I've seen that grown over the years. But I think we continue to focus on ensuring that we've got the proper services. The schools, had a nice budget increase, public safety as well. And we were able to put in as board members, some things that we thought were important to service the town, i.e. Ramping up our communications department. So getting better at, proactive communication. So hopefully we'll see some streamlining there in the months to come. Well, after July, after the budget gets approved, but we'll start planning before then, as well as some assistance to our planning and conservation departments, who, as protect our lands and the development in town, and really a little strapped with enforcement on some of the rules and whatnot. So we want to make sure that what folks are telling us they're doing, that they're actually doing. So we also put some additional funds in there. So it was a quick meeting. I think it was the fastest meeting I've ever attended, the town meeting. Everyone there either worked for the town or was on a committee, maybe a couple of bystanders. So all in all, it was a success because it allows us to move our town forward in the manner in which we want to. So that was good. And then, yes, the election is May 20th. As you know, Tony Vignani is retiring. So we let's say honored him during town meeting. It was his last special town meeting. So his last meeting will be probably in mid-May. And currently there's only one candidate, Susan Harrison, who has been on our Shellfish Advisory Committee. So she is not contested at this point. So pending any write-ins, I still encourage everybody to vote. And then obviously there's the school committee openings as well. And the board and the school committee will be meeting jointly on April 25th to appoint a temporary school committee member. That's a requirement by law because it has been open before the next election. So, we have to appoint someone to basically take part in one meeting for the school committee, but we're required by law to do that. So we will be doing that on April 25th. I think we have approximately 4 applicants who have put their names forth. Some of them are former school committee members, some of them are former teachers, and just folks that understand that, it really is a temporary position, if you will, really for one meeting on the school committee. So that's really it right now. That's my update. Can I help?
I was wondering where all the yard signs were.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't seen any.
There aren't any. I know. It's sad. I mean, for me, it's sad. I'd like to see more participation because I think it allows for greater discussion and debate and, so hopefully in the next coming years, we'll see more folks step forward. But I agree. Yeah, no yard signs.
Maura, a question. Good to hear about the funding for communications that came up. I forget if you were on the last call, actually the last 2 calls, as parts of what we hope to recommend to the select board in terms of our readouts from the town departments is just more communications period to the town to just better share what we're doing. So that is going, do you know, to creating positions, or is it to spend with a third party to help with a PR, do you know?
Yeah, so that's the debate right now.
Okay.
I think Jim's on vacation right now and town meeting just passed. So it may be to enhance an internal position. I'd rather put it on, I don't want to spend money on it personally. It's only my personal opinion, not the board's.
Yeah.
But I'd rather not see us waste that money on a study. I'd rather see it, put forth on enhancing some hours, maybe restructuring what we have today so we can really refocus and have a central point of communication, free up some time. We've got folks that do take care of a lot in our town hall. So if things can, take a look at and reposition and realign a couple things, hopefully that's the way we can address that. We also, Karen Canfield works for the Collins Institute, where they are actually very highly focused on communication and helping municipalities. So we've got a freebie with Karen being on our board to provide, some advice as well, and some counsel on her own. So that'll be good. I think we'll definitely take advantage of that. But continue to call that out, when you guys get in front, because I think it'll really just validate the need that we ask for.
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a common theme.
Yeah.
For, a lot of the
Years.
discussions that we've had lately, so.
We definitely struggle.
Okay. All right, Jamil, welcome. Any updates from you from the school standpoint or the lit program or anything else you want to discuss?
Absolutely. Good to see everybody. Couple things. One is showing appreciation to Maura and the team for that, the meeting and improving budgets and things like that, particularly pertaining to the district and education. Definitely that's appreciated. Beyond that, a couple things. One is we had our last installation of the lit, or was a new endeavor we embarked on, which was the lit bedtime stories. And this was a thing, whereas at 7:15 for every Tuesday during the month of March, and then we did the first 2 Tuesdays in April by popular demand, where at 7:15 parents and families and whomever wants to could zoom in to a location and hear a bedtime story. And this was sponsored by our Lit PAG group, which is the Love, Inclusion, and Trust Parental / Caregiver Advisory Group. And the parents were the readers, along with myself. And the spectrum of topics was fantastic in terms of there being an actual diversity of topics. We started out, just to name a few, we started out with It's Okay to Be Different. Then I went to reduce, reuse, recycle, so talking about sustainability. Then the next space was Change Things, the Amanda Gorman book. Then the last in the initial pilot series was Just Try One Bite, which is about kids trying to convince parents to, actually a blended family where kids were trying to convince the parents to eat healthy. And then after that, folks asked if we could extend it, so we decided to go to the break. And the next 2 books we did were Ambitious Girl. And then we ended with one of my favorites and classics, which was The Monster at the end of this book. And we ended up giving away the book at the end of the last piece. And we had the episode sponsored by the letter J. And it was also had a guest appearance by Kermit the Frog. But anyway, it was just a great initial pilot that it worked out wonderfully and was successful. And so to that end, we're going to regroup once we get back after break and begin to plan out the next academic year. And a lot of folks have already, I think I mentioned this in an email at some point, a lot of folks have already mentioned they want to be readers. And so if you have interest, please let myself know and we'll work that out. We'll get you on the list and see what's up. The other piece is that Megan Gregory has signed on to be the official, our expert in terms of making sure the books are okay. Because we screen them ourselves, but we just want to be duplicitous in making sure that they are what they're supposed to be. And so every book that we shared, Megan actually approved and said it was okay. And so we want to continue to do that. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of the readings, the Reduce, Use, Recycle was said in English and in Spanish. So that was really powerful. So that's something great that, again, connects the community, the district, the students. And I'm looking forward to actually having some student readers next year as well. The other thing would be we had the next podcast that's on the Lit podcast piece was really great. It's some current 8th graders giving advice to next year's 8th graders on how to be successful. So if you haven't listened to that segment, please, by all means, on whatever podcast platform you have, punch in Jamil Adams Lit Podcast, and then you'll hear it. Our Lit teams, have started an additional level of engagement, whereas not only are the teams doing heritage months and community building things, but we're having conversations as it pertains to love, inclusion, and trust. And the first in this conversation was we spoke about what does it mean to live out love, inclusion, and trust, and what is being lit, and what is behavior that is lit, what behavior isn't lit, kind of thing. And it all connects with kindness and care and taking care of each other. So it's just been really great. The students responded really well to the opportunity just to have the conversations, and they didn't respond negatively at all, where folks may think students aren't going to want to talk about things like that. They were all excited and into it and really, really responsive to it, as did the staffs as well. So that's another great thing that has happened since last we met. Then I have been invited on a number of panels and at a number of conferences and things like that based on the things that we are doing as a community. And so I just want to share with folks that we are making I think a really positive and good name for ourselves in this area, in this realm. And so I want us to keep doing that. We also looking at Angela, I got to share, we had our last lit community conversation, which is our partnership with the library, one of the two partnerships we have with the library. And we had our sister city representatives come through, and Angela made that happen because we had France and Ireland and Cape Verde represented. And I actually learned so much in that space where I didn't know the rich connection of all of those with Scituate. Like I just did not know that. And so if you haven't, I encourage everyone and anyone who's maybe watching to really do some research on how Scituate is connected to Cape Verde family, to Ireland. I mean, I get folks think there's a lot of Irish people in Scituate already, but there's like a significant historical connection there, and also between Cape Verdean folks and Irish folks. And then the French piece, I didn't get to connect with the woman who was the representative that was there. Angela, I don't remember her name, so please forgive me for that. But there's actually a connection there, and her and I ran into each other in the library on another occasion after that. And I just wanted to, actually no, it was right after, and I wanted to reconnect with her to find out more about the French connection there. But it was so powerful, and to the point that at the, I think it's is it the HUC? I'm trying to think, is the H not Hanover? I think it's the Hingham Unity Council. Am I saying that right? Is it Hingham?
Yeah. Yeah.
They had some folks from there, at least one person from there, come to that one community conversation and shared what they learned about the sister city movement happening. Well, the history of it in Scituate and the latest edition as well. So that ended up in the notes, because I get the notes from the HUC. So that was really powerful. And again, thank you, Angela, for making that happen and being a principal reason why that even came to be. Between yourself and Emily Matthews, that's how I got born. And the last thing is we're working on the strategic plan, and I'll let folks know that the tenets from the equity audit and our love, inclusion, and trust energy is present as well as we continue working on that. So I just want to folks rest assured that energy and presence is there. So I'll pause there, and if there's any questions or conversation, we can do that. So that's what's going on since we last met.
Well, Jamil, I want to thank you, Jamil, and the folks at the library for inviting us and extending the invitation to the other two sister city committees. I think I just want to say, a shout out to Jamil, the DI director, and the folks at the library. I think, you're everything that you do for our community. I don't think people understand how fortunate we are to have such, talented, helpful resource. I mean, I went back because Anne at the library had some college essay papers that someone had contributed to the library that had information on Cape Verdeans and Scituate, hundreds of years ago. And she's like, I'm happy to make copies for you and share it. And I shared it at our sister city committee. Now everyone wants it. I'm like, okay, we're going to ask for, we're asking for too much, you know, too many copies. But again, thank you, Jamil, and thank you, everyone. I'm happy to hear that Christina is from the library now. You know, we just, our team just got even better. So I appreciate it. I think I'm not surprised, Jamil, that you're hearing from other communities, because I know I brag about this committee and I brag about the things that Scituate is doing. And people are surprised, but I think it's a pleasant surprise. So I'm happy to participate, and I think we have a wonderful community, and I love seeing people willingness to give back and to make it better. So thank you both.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And 100%. We do this together. Always we, always love. That's absolutely what it is. And then we have one more lit expression night coming up. I'm working with Kate from the library on that. So yeah, it's definitely good to have another member of our library family on the team here. So yeah.
I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
There is one more lit event. I thought that Sister City one was the last one.
Yeah, that is the last one. But remember, we do the lit community conversations, and we also do the lit open expression night.
Oh,
so the open expression night, though, is when folks come in, I don't know, do comedy or poetry or play an instrument and things like that. We'll see what's up. And I'm working with Kate. Kate is the liaison from the library on that one. So that's coming up in May.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Maura, Jamil? Obviously, if they we can hit that as the meeting goes on. It is time for public comment. Do we have any public comment? I do see somebody joined. Okay. Feel free to ask a question if you'd like.
Can I do a PSA just to wrap up what Jamil was saying? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So with regards to Sister Cities, this Sunday is the Irish, the Easter Rising celebration down at the harbor, down at Cole Parkway, which happens every year. And we have some noble visitors coming over from Ireland to be there. So if anybody is interested, I think it starts at, I'll check on the time, but I think it's either 12 or 1. I need to double check on the time. But it's posted on our website, but let me double check. But it's,
Yeah, it's 12 o'clock.
well, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just add, because I went to that event at the library, and some of the stories from the Ireland Sister City and the France Sister City, and how they were received when they went to those respective cities. And it was they're very funny ladies, the two ones that kind of started that, right? And then just talking about how they were over there getting treated to like Michelin starred restaurants, right? And then they had to, and then they came back here and like, oh geez, we need to like scramble, we need to like make something happen here. So it was quite amusing. There was a lot of personality in the room at the library that night, so
Yep.
It was fun.
Not
And Angela, I think it's your treasurer, Angela. That guy is fantastic.
John Montero, yes.
Yeah,
He's great. His mother was born, he told the story, his mother was born in the United States. She Mrs. Montero lived to 104. She passed away in Scituate, but she was born, went back to Cape Verde, lived there, married, and then came back with her 7 children. So she was an actual American citizen. And then her children that she brought, became, naturalized citizens. But yeah, the Monteros have been part of the community for a long time.
Yeah. All right. So let's keep going. All right. So getting into our in-flight opportunities and projects. I think probably the best thing to do is I will share my screen. I know there were a number of things that were shared over the last couple of days. Sorry, I have a million tabs up, which is a problem that I have. I'm going to try to pick the right one. All right, does everybody see that? I hope. Should say Department of Public Works.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is, Elena first put together a template, and, I had a couple of tweaks. And so we've just been, and even though I'm a Microsoft PowerPoint guy, I'm getting the hang of this Google stuff. And I can see why people use it, because you can just make live updates. So anyways, so Department of Public Works, I guess I'll ask Celia if you could kind of run us through, was you're involved with that one, right, Celia, or no? Okay.
Yep, Bob and me.
And Bob, and if you can kind of run us through those slides. And then I also broke out some of the Board of Health, Social Services fact slides as well. So, and because I think more, this is probably the first time you're getting a look at these. Because so the idea is that, I think a couple meetings ago, you mentioned it might be time to start reporting back on some of the town department things, because we had all the other projects going on, equitable communications. Obviously, we spent a lot of time on Indigenous peoples, and we've tabled that for the time being. But getting back to the departments, so we're back to Scituate Police Department, which we're not going to discuss tonight, but Public Works, DPW, and then the amalgamation of Social Services, Board of Health, and so on. So these are work in progress, but we're trying to get them to a point where we will then reach out to you, get a slot on the calendar, come in, talk to the select board, progress update, and a series of recommendations. Make sense?
Yep. Sounds
Okay.
good.
So Celia, you want to take it away?
Sure. So starting with the highlights of DPW, the first is just that department showcases another area of equity, thinking about job roles and the role of blue collar workers in town and in general, and how we're also treating and elevating them. So that's just something to keep in mind as we think about diversity. And then the second is that, as the town looks for examples of folks doing great work, I think they can look to the DPW director and chief engineer if there are, folks you want to spotlight or count on as you work with other departments. I think they can be elevated. Next slide, Tom.
And do you include why?
Not in detail on that slide, but I think we could, if you think that would be helpful. I think first and foremost was their approach and attitude towards the work. And then they had shared in the meeting with Bob, Ruth at the time, and me, just a few examples of hiring practices, taking risks, for example, based on maybe skill set and not experience, which is newer to the hiring field, and taking chances on folks, training them internally, giving them the toolkit that they need so they can grow. And I think that's a good model as everyone's struggling with talent. And it's also a good way to get diversity in terms of talent as well. So, and just in terms, in their approach, and they were just very open to the conversation and feedback as well, and wanting to, take what they could to improve DPW. So I think it's all those things.
Great. Thank you.
Other key takeaways, trying to read really small here. This goes to the communications piece, Maura, about, the town understanding why certain services are rendered how they are and how they are ranked in terms of priority of delivery. And also why we do things that people may not think directly serve them. So for example, why would we spend time and money creating sidewalks instead of paving certain roads? Well, the reason for that is so people can have accessibility, and it's really about equity and making sure folks are safe. So thinking about that perspective as well. But then also knowing, one thing Kevin shared with us is that there is an internal, very thorough process that ranks the condition of certain roads, let's say, and there's an entire ranking system. So it doesn't really matter where you live. That's not how services are prioritized. It's really a needs-based assessment that, is pretty equitable from what we were explained. are told. So, how can we better communicate that? Because that's not something that is public. We do hear, however, like, this Thursday we're paving X street to X street. So be aware of that for traffic patterns, but we don't receive anything other than that in terms of notification. So what could we do to share some of the thinking behind how the town renders services? And then the other pieces, again, poor Bob, DPW also faces hiring and retention issues right now. However, unlike other departments, theirs are made more acute because of the certifications and trainings necessary for certain roles. I don't know, Bob, if you want to elaborate there. I know you shared a little bit about what the town is doing last week around certain licenses.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so just sort of to reiterate, I mean, it's been problematic with many of our departments, but in particular with DPW, where we may need CDO drivers, and I think that there's a lot of towns looking for the same qualifications. So we're really, it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity, because we're looking at really trying to develop some internal training mechanisms so that we can recruit people who may be interested in those fields, and then potentially train in-house. So again, it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity then for us to kind of maybe potentially bringing a more diverse workforce. And I think that the DPW management team has really been open to that. I mean, we strategize a lot about how we can improve our recruitment efforts. It's been a challenge, and so we sort of continue to work on that. And we've been talking to the union. We're in union negotiations right now, so this is the subject of those conversations as well.
And then the final takeaway on this slide is similar to other departments, DPW obviously would benefit from unconscious bias training, especially given their level of interaction and visibility with residents. I mean, they're always, on the road and really visible in the community. So, and not everyone has a front-facing, like front of house type role, so to say, whereas they are very front of house. Next slide, Tom. So in terms of opportunities for other work, communications, I won't get into this. We've talked a lot about it. But what is a strategy that the town as a whole can consider? And maybe I think, Tom, this can go up like at the very top of the deck, where it's like, overarching themes that came out of the departments. This would be one of them that we shared. Talking about, if we do need to make the sell. So for example, Maura, like how do we use the funding that was just approved in the budget? What are the benefits of a communication strategy to DEI, to explaining the services and benefits of living in Scituate? Does it attract new residents? Does it attract, town employees? Like what are those reciprocal effects? And then hiring and training. One thing that came up is, what could each department learn from each other? So for example, it was clear DPW does not have the diversity in gender that the police department does, or in sex, I should say, because the police department is 33% women, but DPW has been struggling to attract women into this field of work. So what can police or DPW learn from police? Like what is that, some of that that can take place within the town? Could we in future budgets, or look at the current one that was just approved, dedicate additional resources to in-house training and support for employees interested in attaining certain certifications and licenses in DPW? Yeah, and let's mention the budget. Next slide, Tom.
I think that's it
Oh, okay, great.
for DPW.
Oh, okay, there we go.
That's
Okay.
awesome. That's great. And Bob, didn't we, I think we brought up training during the budget review. If I can go back, I'd have to pull all my notes, but that's great. I think those topics were all top of mind during the budgetary process. So that's awesome. This is great. I think the board will really appreciate hearing this, so they can provide some additional direction moving forward.
Okay.
Thanks, Celia.
All right. So continuing on. Well, actually, let me ask a question. So before, just from an action standpoint, before we get to a point where we are ready to get in front of more of you and your colleagues, are there any other actions, Celia, Bob, whomever, that you think we need to take with DPW? Does there need to be another meeting? So like picture yourself in front of the select board like tomorrow. Would you be comfortable presenting this?
Well, Tom, now that you're actually asking, sorry, I know you asked Maura, I'm actually thinking, we did share the notes after the meeting with DPW, but it would be nice, before we go to like someone's boss, to like send it back to them to just let them know, like, here's how we synthesize them, like in terms of like high level, and we plan to share these out, or maybe we wait until we have the meeting set, but I would want like Kevin to know, for example.
That's kind of where I was going.
Oh,
because-
I think it's a good idea, because he might be able to provide you with some commentary on any steps that he's taken even since your meeting.
Yeah,
Since
I
it-
mean, I had a general conversation with Kevin Cafferty last week, and I told him, I gave him a sense of what we were looking at, but I didn't dive too deep with it though. So, but I think it may warrant another conversation, Celia, with him, just to make sure that he's sort of on board with this. Some of these, particularly like the hiring and training, ideas that potentially sort of significant, sort of the departure from what they're currently doing. We've had conversations about it, but I think we probably want to talk to him and make sure we're all on the same page before we do any presentation to the board. So maybe we can set that up in the coming week or so.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure though, Bob, too, that we don't take away any of the objectivity, right? That in the lens that Celia and the group also provide. So if there are things that, could behoove us to take a look at, I want to make sure we keep that in too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Because I mean, I was thinking along those lines, for example, with a few of these slides, right? So the next couple of slides, I mentioned Erica by name a couple of times, right? And I've only met with her once, and I've been in a few other meetings that she's been in, but that's about it. So I think I was thinking along the lines of, from an action, getting another meeting to meet with, whether it's, all of these town departments or just social services and facts. I'm not sure, but I'll just run through these, and these do not differ too much from what we discussed last month. These slides are, I broke them into two, and I updated based on our meeting, but so you can see it here. From a social services standpoint, Erica is really strapped, right? So she's got 40 some odd clients at any one time. And then she's also a referral source for SPD on issues impacting mental health. So it was in a meeting, the suicide awareness training that I was at the library, where Lieutenant O'Shea was with Erica at that meeting, and Lieutenant O'Shea mentioned that 80% of the current calls into the Scituate Police Department, 911 calls, have a mental health aspect to them, which is a big number. And I was like really surprised to hear that. I guess I was surprised and I wasn't surprised. That doesn't mean that Erica is going on ride-alongs. That's just the facts, right? And then out of those become, a number of those become referral sources for the Scituate Police Department. Bob added some color in the meeting that, a number of the calls, they might be repeats, unfortunately there's people that most likely have afflictions, which, makes them, that they have those needs. So a few other things. So there was a social services grant, that Bob talked about. I had also had a conversation with Anne Marie Galvin about it, that's shared regionally across Scituate, Hingham, Cohasset. Are there any other updates on this, Bob, as far as you mentioned that a case manager was posted?
Right, well, not posted, but they went back to, it's a DPH grant, Department of Public Health, and they went back to Department of Public Health and asked to be able to use a portion of that $100,000 to hire a part-time caseworker. DPH rejected that request. So I did talk to Erica. She was pretty disappointed because she really thought that that would have helped alleviate, her, kind of significant burden. I think they've sort of appealed that. I think they've gone back to DPH, but I'm not sure that they're particularly confident that it's going to be funded. I think that the DPH grant is focused a little bit more on, I forget specifically, but it may be more sort of medical and data collection rather than specific hands-on case management, which is really what is sorely needed in that department. So, but ultimately, whether it's this source or some other, it's become clear that we need to kind of supplement what Erica is doing there in some, so.
Okay, well, that's already in the recommendation, so that'll be on the next slide. So another aspect is, and this gets into what Celia was talking about, and we've talked about it a number of times tonight around communication. So one of the things that we've discussed, Christina, who hasn't been on our calls, and Maura, you weren't on the last call, is that the town actually has, so it's the idea around communications, and the town actually utilizes an access and functional needs assessment form. I believe that's what it's called. And there's a link here. Residents don't know about it because Bob did some research and only 10 households have filled it out. Maybe we've creeped up because I know Natasha did it, and it's enough, for me to do it. But it's a multi-page, and it can be translated because we went through that in our last meeting. So you can use the Google Translate, and it's like 8 pages or so. And the idea being, I guess part of that though is, okay, it's great. So what if we get 2,000 households to fill it out? Who's going to look at it? Is it linked into public safety so that before they go on a call, they can say, okay, I'm going to, 400 Main Street, and it's a family of 5, and 2 of the 5 have special needs, and it informs them before they go. Because Weymouth, I first kind of got wind of it. Weymouth has something like this that they just rolled out to some level of fanfare that, to hopefully help emergency response teams. So. Anyways,
That comes under the communication umbrella. Sorry.
it does.
Right.
It does. And that's an overarching theme, which we can, when we do get in front of the select board, we can, put together a slide or two purely just based on communications, which Elena sent out a separate email, which we'll discuss in a second.
Tom, do you mind if I ask a question about that form?
Yeah.
Is that on the town's website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, see, one of the things I've certainly discovered is that the town website has a lot of great stuff. You just don't really know it's there, right? So it's proactive. So the whole idea behind proactive communications, until I was on this committee, sadly, I didn't really know about 90% of the things that I'm now signed up for. So like I get emails all the time from Scituate now because I signed up for all of them. And I was getting stuff from the schools and probably just major things, and that was about it. And I mean, there's some really good services out there, but people just don't know about them. All right. So WIP, just like last time, so work in progress. So I am going to take an action item to maybe I'll talk to you, Bob, and try to get a discussion with Erica to preview some of this stuff in this similar fashion to what we just talked about with DPW. But as I mentioned here, it could potentially result in recommendation of either a part-time resource for Erica or an embedded social worker for the Scituate Police Department, similar to what Hingham has done. Because Hingham has a full-time social services resource. And I thought I had this in here. I don't know. I must have a different version, but
See it on the WIP, work in progress, at the end of that sentence.
the embedded social worker for SPD.
Is that what you're looking for?
No, I actually put the link in here,
Oh,
but it's probably sitting in my PowerPoint, and my cut and paste skills were very poor today. But Hingham did hire a full-time resource that actually works in the Scituate Police Department and actually goes on a lot of the calls. Right. So, and Erica just doesn't have the bandwidth for that. Communication theme recommendations. We've talked about this, how to access forms, making sure people are aware. Kate made a great point in our last call that, you know, a lot of this type of stuff, I mean, it's certainly within our umbrella from a DEI perspective, whether it's language, having access to a computer and so forth. So from an equity standpoint, it's absolutely squarely, I think, in what we can do. We talked about an overall needs assessment, focusing on underserved, underfunded areas, which would take the form of surveys, meetings, listening tours. So that's something more that I think we could discuss with the select board and kind of just get your thoughts as to what we think town officials would be, you know, up for doing. Because I mean, the next step is down below. Opportunities for further DEI work is actually contracting with someone to do a full-blown equity audit, which is something that was a campaign promise. I don't want to say it was a campaign promise from Maura Healy, because I believe she is mandating equity audits for state government.
Yeah.
And obviously I got Jamil from the Scituate Public Schools just went through it.
so could we assume that if it's being mandated by the state, it would potentially be funded by the state as well? I mean,
Well, you can't assume because we've got a gazillion unfunded mandates.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to
I
double.
think it's state town, isn't it? I
Yeah.
mean,
I don't think, has she mandated it? She says state government here, not all government. So I don't know if she's mandating it for municipalities yet.
No, so the way that I heard it, because I think it was in her inaugural address too, it was just to audit. It wasn't like trickling down to municipalities. I think it was to like audit like HHS, you know, like large, like
Right.
state secretariats. Yeah.
Doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, right? So it's certainly worth bringing forth, in my opinion.
right. So, I mean, that was it. So Bob, I'll reach out to you to see if, you know, we can get a meeting with Erica. And I know that, so Natasha was working on this with me and Kate. Okay. So I'll take that as a to-do.
So is your plan just to go through these two divisions at a time, or are you just covering these two tonight and then another? Did you cover other departments when I wasn't here? Sorry, I have to ask that.
So Scituate Police is also on our plate. That's a little bigger, just in terms of the volume of notes and so forth. So we just haven't put those together yet.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So, and so the other piece that I just wanted to discuss, and again, I don't think we need to belabor this, but I mean, Elena put together an email today, sent it to Celia, Bob, myself, you know, around it's this whole concept of equitable communication. So my thought process there, you know, disclaimers. I don't think Elena knew that we were going to talk about communication so much tonight. So I feel like we've already discussed a lot of what's in her email. You know, I think I hate to say it's low hanging fruit. Sorry to use that term, but it kind of is. I think there's a lot of different things around communications that can be done around disclaimers, mailings in the 4 predominant languages that are spoken in Scituate. I know there's more than that, but if we were to select 4, that might be something that where we could really drive out better communication in town. So I think in addition to the 2 departments that are nearing ready to get in front of you, Maura, we could also include slides that are more general, again, to use Celia's term, the overarching themes, top down from a communication standpoint.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I would target June, when the new board is in place.
That's perfect.
Yeah. That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
And not to just keep adding to this presentation, so it takes up the whole select board meeting. I'm just wondering more from your perspective, given that there will be a new member sitting on the select board, is it worth it to open with just an overview of like, here are like the 4 things we've, done so far, like sister cities, restrooms, like all of the big, just as a reminder, and then going into like, and here
was our original charge, so here's our
Yeah.
report. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And I can help tee it up as well.
Okay.
Nope, thank you. That's great.
Excellent. All right. What else would people like to discuss? Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up? All right. See, I told you, Christina, I try to keep them to an hour, especially when the Celtics are playing, but sorry, that's not for public record. Jamil, do you have something? You gonna talk about the Knicks?
Oh, I'm looking forward to them doing that thing tomorrow night. So don't get me started. But I just thought about the Freedom Team and that we're nearing closer to having a pilot of a circle conversation, what that looks like. And if this goes as wonderfully as we imagine, well, this may become an opportunity for our community folks to be in conversation on any number of topics. But we're getting closer to doing that. But we, on the Freedom Team Network side of things, which is a representative from all 7 Freedom Teams, there's a Young Scholars Freedom Team Network, which is student reps from each of those teams getting together. They've already done a circle for them, and just to see how it feels and how it works, and they're going to continue to get that going for all the Freedom Teams. So additional ways for folks to communicate on complex topics is in development and coming soon.
That's excellent. Thanks, Jamil. Always love hearing about the Freedom Team. So yeah, whatever you ever want to add about that, that's great. All right, so as far as future meeting dates, May 16th might be in jeopardy for a few of us. I've already heard from a few people that are going to have a problem with that date, me included. So I'll get a note out about that. I may look to, I realize as we get into the summer months, it gets tough, but I may look to push it back a month. Not a month, I'm sorry, a week. I'm potentially looking to move it back a week. So I will.
Fine, I'll be gone the following week, but you don't need me for a quorum, but I'll
Okay.
be.
And if we have, obviously more, if we have a deck that we feel, I'd like to think that by next month, we will have something pretty buttoned up. We'll just send it to you
Yeah, I
offline.
can look at it. Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
Easy.
All right. Anything else at all? All right, then I will move to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kate. All right, I will call the roll. Ms. Gilberti,
Yes.
Ms. Dre,
Yes.
Ms. Swope,
Yes.
Ms. Risha,
Yes.
and I am a yes. So that adjourns our meeting at 7:28 p.m. Thanks, everybody.